In mission together we all join our hands. In mission together throughout many lands. With our hearts united, our voices we raise to God our Creator in glorious praise.
Hello friends, this is Reflections, a religious affairs program sponsored by Paducah Cooperative Ministry, where together we do God's work with human hands. I'm Karen Winkel, one of your co-hosts, and I pastor United Church of Paducah. Your other co-host is Gregory Waldrop, who's pastor of Fountain Avenue United Methodist. Good to be together, Gregory.
Glad to be right here with you, and glad to be with you all. Glad you've joined us for this program. We're in for a treat. We often hear about the important ministries that go on at the Paducah Cooperative Ministry, and this is one of those days. We have with us Nikki, who is the Homeless Education Coordinator, and we want to hear all about the homeless ministry at PCM. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot to the homeless program at PCM. My job specifically is working with extended care housing programs. These are 2 federally funded grants. We have a very small amount of slots, is what we call them. They're that we can put folks in whenever they leave the shelter. These programs, one program is specifically for people who are in the shelter that are determined to be disabled. That has to be verified by a physician. Whenever they leave the shelter, they could be put in this program if they do not qualify for a subsidized housing, like Paducah Housing Authority or Section 8, or if they're determined to need some more ongoing services. The other program is basically a program that is for people who are self-sufficient. We've tended to put people in there that could not get into, again, a subsidized housing complex because of criminal history of some type, or because we determined they needed a little bit of extra services in the way of case management and teaching life skills. So those programs are small, but we try to do the best we can with them. With the shelter residents, we try to explore every avenue of housing, and so if we get roadblocks, these are thankfully a good option in many cases. So, but part of that program is education. Part of the grant requirements are that we provide education to all of the participants, and so we are able to include our shelter residents in that, in addition to the ones that are actually in the program. So, in a nutshell, that's the program. So it's only been 2 minutes. Can I leave now? Just kidding.
Well, let's talk first. Let's back up just a little bit and talk about, folks are in the emergency housing shelter, and they're there
Correct.
for...
Generally, people come into our homeless shelter. We give them 30 days at a time, provided that they follow all the rules. Within those first 30 days, we work with them to do food stamps application, get all the required documents for that turned in, all of the available housing prospects, Paducah Housing Authority, Highland Terrace, WB Standards. We determine which ones that they would be eligible for. We help them fill out those applications and get those turned in. So within the first 30 days, all of that needs to take place. They also will be looking for jobs, or if they're determined to be unable to work, we try to get them into voc rehab, signed up for Social Security disability. And then after 30 days, we work with them at that point. In phase 2 is kind of what we call it, which is everything's been turned in and done. It's just waiting to see what's going to come through. And in that point, we will work with them for another 30, 60, or 90 days on educational components, and try to, if they haven't found employment, we continue to work with them on that, continue to help them stay involved with voc rehab and other things that may come up in those next days. But usually the average stay is between 60 or 90 days. Sometimes it's a little longer, depending on the wait for housing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the rules that you said they had to abide by are pretty straightforward, right? No drugs and alcohol.
No drugs or alcohol, no fighting, no profanity, being disrespectful, no stealing. They do have to be in by 10 o'clock unless they're working. If they have a verifiable job that requires them to be out past 10, then we just need to see that schedule. They do have to be out from 9 to 4 Monday through Friday. Single parents we work with around making sure that the kids aren't getting drug all over the place, but making sure that they still get things done that they need to. They do have to have housing applications and sign up for food stamps. All that has to be in within the first 30 days. That's part of the rules as well. And then they do have to participate in our educational components in the shelter. So they're pretty straightforward rules.
And they're rules that obviously encourage them in ways that make for success and make for the...
Yes, and it's also designed to protect. A lot of people come in and look at our rules and say, well, I'm not a kid, I don't need a parent. But we have to take into consideration that at any given point, our shelter could be filled with 40 men, women, and children, and you have to protect other people as well. It's not just because I might come into the shelter and not do any of those things, that doesn't mean that someone else doesn't need to be told that. And so it's not just to keep everybody in line. I guess it's to provide a component of safety as well as keeping them on track to do what they're supposed to do.
So you're really, one of the things that I appreciate about what PCM is doing is you're not just meeting that immediate need, but you're really looking at an array of things that's going to help that person be successful once they leave.
Right.
Yeah.
There are two types of shelters in the world of homelessness. There's the emergency overnight type shelter where people are guaranteed a bed, some place to sleep that's safe, gives them a place to take a shower, get a hot meal, and then they get out and go out during the day, and then they have to come back again at night. And then there are shelters that try to be more comprehensive and try to address a different type of need, and both are very needed in every community because not everybody wants to break the cycle of homelessness. There are people I've met that are very content living on the road that they've been on for years. They really don't have any desire to change. And as humans, we have to respect each person's choice. However, there are people that would change provided they have the right tools and the right resources. And so our shelter tends to not be the overnight come in emergency shelter, leave the next day.
Right, anonymous.
It's right. It's very comprehensive, as much as we possibly can make it. And our goal is to stop the cycle and to help them start a new one. And that takes a lot of hard work on both parties' part. And it takes a lot of resources and a lot of kind of out of the box thinking sometimes. Because folks are very transient. People who have traveled are very used to traveling. And so breaking the cycle and doing the hard thing is a lot of times very difficult to choose because we as humans like to do what's comfortable and what we've always known. And so, but PCM definitely tries to look at the wider needs of what needs to be addressed to break homelessness cycle.
I've been intrigued always about PCM's ability to partner with agencies across the community, obviously local churches, but other institutions, other helping organizations. And tell me about your partners, particularly in the homeless.
The supportive housing grants, which are the Extended Care Housing Program grants, we actually are collaborative partners with two other agencies, the Merriman House and Heartland Cares HIV/AIDS Clinic. All three agencies have pretty much been in this almost since the beginning, about 10 years ago, with these grants. Basically, we are awarded one grant through Heartland Cares, and then everything is subdivided among the agencies. But between the three agencies, we target the major populations of people who are homeless. Domestic violence victims is Merriman House. Heartland Cares is obviously the HIV/AIDS population that's homeless, and then PCM is the general homeless population. So under one grant, we have managed to cover a pretty vast population of people who are homeless and be able to give them target their specific needs. And that's one of the things I love about the grants is that it does allow each agency to still compete with the larger programs because we are three agencies, but it also allows us to tailor a program to very specific populations of people because they are very, very different. Homelessness is a complex issue that is very unique within each subpopulation of people. So that collaborative effort really allows us to provide a very good service to each agency's clients, and it's a good thing.
I was intrigued at the last meeting about homelessness that I attended at PCM at the percentage of homeless people that are children. Talk a little bit about that, Nikki.
I'm not sure where you want me to go with that. I know that, you know, at PCM, our population, the national average for homeless children in shelters has been somewhere around 25%. That our average at PCM has, you know, I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had 17 children, 13 of which were 5 and under. That meant that more than half of our population was children. I think that there's a lot of children who are homeless that are doubled up with their moms and dads and other family members that unfortunately sometimes fall through the cracks. But I think that need to meet those families where they are and really try to help address their issues is growing because things have changed so much. So it is appalling to me that so many children could be homeless and be falling through the cracks. You know, there's such a detriment to children when they move from school to school to school. It's just heart-wrenching to me to see that happen. So when they get to PCM, you know, we try very hard to make sure that we do have a wonderful homeless education program here in McCracken County that will make sure that their records get transferred, that everything will get situated for the children. And I think that we have one of the best communities, in my opinion, that deal with children and homelessness. It's just that there's such a great need that one program sometimes can't meet every need.
Even that early start program, don't you have a?
We have the Wings program at
Wings,
PCM.
that's
Is
what I'm
that
thinking of,
okay?
yeah.
And that's designed for kids who are 5 and under. And basically, we have an education specialist that will make sure that all the children are reaching their developmental milestones, and if they're not, then we'll refer them out to other programs like First Steps or Head Start. So, you know, there's a lot of really good services in McCracken County that PCM can utilizes and that we have in-house, you know, so that's good news for our community. It's bad. It's kind of sad to know that every community does not have the resources that we do. So.
Well, let's talk some about this supplemental program or programs that are happening and what that looks like and what the elements of that would be.
The two programs work basically the same. We provide a subsidy towards rent, which is a portion of their rent for each household. And I always tell folks when they come into these programs that there's strings attached to it. This is not free money. The government is not in the habit of giving us things just because they want to. There are strings attached to it. The strings that are attached are we have to be allowed to come into the home once a month to be sure that the home is safe, that it's clean, it's being taken care of, that the landlord has followed through with anything that they were supposed to, as well as making sure that the tenant has done their part, that they've kept the unit clean and free from hazards, make sure there's not any, drugs, that the children are being taken care of, that it's not infested with rats, that kind of stuff. The other part of it is they're required to attend a monthly life skills meeting, and then the third part of it is that they are required to follow through with, they set goals when they come into the program, and they're required to set steps to accomplish those goals and then follow through with it. So in the course of being in our program, they come into it, they live in an independent rental property. We have some really good landlords that will work with us. So they'll live in an individual rental property, and then we'll go in once a month, make sure everything's looking the way it's supposed to. Typically the things that we cover every time we talk to them, every home visit, every office visit, I will do a budget with them, see where their money is going, see how it's been spent. I'm not a financial tyrant, but if they have $500 that's not accounted for, I want to know why, where it's going, because typically that's a big red flag that they're doing something that they're not supposed to, that's going to eventually lead to them becoming homeless again. And then monthly life skills meetings are required to attend. We also include the shelter residents in this. Life skills topics range from tenant-landlord laws to budgeting tips to staying motivated to coping skills, stress management, everything that you need to survive on that you didn't get to learn when you were growing up, or you've learned and you forgot.
And who's leading those?
I do.
You do.
Yes.
Fabulous.
At times I do have guest speakers come in. I've had people come from a lot of different places. Had nutritionists come in. We've had some folks from banks come in. But for the most part, I've spent 6 years kind of honing topics, and if it's an area that I don't feel like I can present adequately, I'll make sure that we have someone who can come in and do that. But to me, that's a significant part of this program, because if nothing changes, in some ways nothing will change. And so if nothing changes, typically change will only occur in a negative way. And so, but change cannot occur without some element of education being the beginning point of that. And I've always appreciated that PCM feels so strongly about educating people, because we can't do it for them, and we're not always going to be able to do the same thing. Things change. Hopefully we'll be able to do it for a good length of time, but we know that things change, and they need to be able to be self-sufficient. And one of the ways that they do that is education. So another part we're really excited about is we were able to do, through this program, through one of the programs, we were able to incorporate an incentive program for clients. And basically, we have a library that was created by one of the supportive housing programs, and for every 4 hours of independent study a participant does, they can get a Walmart card or a gas card. The independent study is designed by myself or one of the other ladies that works with the program. They have to do a contract, they have to do a timesheet, it's a very structured, got to prove to me that you've earned the 4 hours, but after they've proven they've gotten the 4 hours completed and they've done it successfully and learned what the targeted goals were, then they will receive a Walmart card or a gas card in exchange for that. And we're excited about that, because it opened up the door to not be like parents saying you have to learn this. Now they get to choose some of the topics that are most interesting to them, and do it independently. And so that's another exciting thing that we've been able to start just in the last few weeks. So,
Hey.
Marvelous. Well, I've been in the library where some of those resources are, and then I think in another part of the building you've got some computer stations, and the library was just wonderful.
Yeah, we were really blessed. The reason that we were able to do that was because it was the first funding cycle of a new grant. It was and so we were able to do something that we never thought we would be able to, and it's turned out to be such a gift. And we do have 2 computers that are, it's in a collapsible workspace, so that means when we need the back room or we need the space, then we're able to rearrange things. And but we also have a comfortable environment for the people in the program to come in and work in, and we were able to get some really good material from several different places, and so I feel like it's a really well-balanced library. They'll have a lot of good information and a great use for years to come. So.
And what about the folks for whom literacy is an issue?
We actually have gotten some software from a company that works with Job Corps curriculums, and I think the average comprehension level for it is about 8th grade. But when you use the software that we bought, it actually walks them through, and it reads it to them, and it tells them everything that they need to do. So if we can get them to just use the basic, click the mouse button here and that kind of stuff, then they can, they actually can use it. And I think we have about 300 different topics that was purchased within that software, and so that's a great starting place. If we do have someone who has literacy issues, we do try to immediately identify that so that they can begin to work on it. In addition to doing what we have at the office, we try to make sure that they get plugged into other resources, because that's something that's a little more time consuming, obviously, but we do have some software that would help kind of get around that a little bit. So.
Well, this is most intriguing. It happens at Paducah Cooperative Ministry?
Yes.
At the on-site there, it's not, you said another agency had helped you get the library, but the library's at PCM.
Yes, everything's actually on-site, and the money came through the grant, so it was just, it was still actually part of PCM. Okay. So it's just that it's called bonus money in the world of grant funding, and it had to be directly applied to benefits of clients in the program. And so this was the best idea, and I think it was a very good idea.
Well, I know a big part of PCM is the volunteer from all over the community. Is this program volunteer intensive? Are there things that you can use volunteers for? Or if people had computers that they might be interested in giving you workable working computers, would that be a help? Are there other ways that to buttress this program?
Well, I'm thinking right now we really need help with childcare providers for when we do educational groups, because we can't involve. We have 3 folks that volunteer their time once a month for the evening group, but we need folks during the day when we do the other groups. And the other way I think
Excuse me, but how many children do you take care of at a time? What do you know about?
I don't know, between 3, 5, it's really dependent on the shelter population.
Right,
but the other thing that I'm always looking for is just professionals that are interested in coming in and sharing their knowledge on a topic, because I can research it, I can learn it and be competent in it, but if that's not my area, it takes a whole lot. It takes a lot more time, but also I'm not quite as adequate as what a professional is. So whether they're nutritionists or counselors or financial investment individuals, professionals in the community that just, may take for granted that they're too busy and they don't have time to do something, an hour once or twice a year to present on a topic that they're very knowledgeable about in a way that's very simplistic would be a great benefit. And eventually we may be looking for mentors. I'm not sure that we're quite there yet, but eventually that may be something that we really want to explore a little bit more.
These are for other adults, mentoring other adults.
Right.
So you've been at this a while. Didn't you say before we started that you've been doing this, not this particular program, but you've been working in
I worked at Heartland Cares as an AmeriCorps housing counselor for a year, and then I have been at PCM almost 5 years. So
you're very experienced, and you've seen a lot, I'm thinking. Yeah. Are you seeing some things that are different than before?
I think that the face of homelessness is always changing, but I've really seen. I can look back from when I first started at PCM in particular and see a difference. I remember we kind of look back and we think, okay, the day when we just had a man that was drunk and, throwing a temper tantrum at the building, that was a really stressful day. And now it's so much more. It's, needs are so much bigger. Financial needs to get people moved into places are bigger. Making sure they have furniture to move into the places, making sure that the kids have what they need, parenting skills, younger parents. I mean, we have 2 in our shelter right now, between the 2 of them, that have 6 kids in their early 20s. And it's just, I think the needs are becoming bigger. Perhaps it's not so much the people that have changed, but the needs are becoming much bigger. But it's always interesting to look back and see where we've come from and where we are. And
I can remember with great joy, delight. And I know you've got stories to tell like this as well. But at one Christmas time, some years back, I looked across the sales room, and there was a person I recognized. I didn't remember quite where I knew this person from, and as I got closer, it was clear that they recognized me also, and I came up, greeted them, and I was trying to sort of delicately discover, and this person said, "You know me from the PCM Homeless Ministry." And she said, "I want you to know that work put me on my feet. Now," they told me where they lived, and they were obviously working at Sears and making a good go of it, and it was really a great moment.
You know, and I think about, for me, what really has been brought home to me was just those moments when, you know, you get lost in the stress and the hustle and just the busyness of things, that sometimes it's real easy to forget that the people that you're working with may very well, you know, you never know the God-ordained moments that have been put before you and what they're going to do. And I think over the last 6 years, especially the 5 years I've been at PCM almost, to look back and think, you never know when that moment was that moment that changed. Not because of something I did, but just because I happened to be there and because I was available, you know. And I think that that's one of the most amazing aspects of PCM, is that it is a living ministry, just like we're living ministers, as you all are pastors. And that ministry is alive because it's always trying to stay in tune with what God has. And you know, when I think about the people that we've come in contact with, it's just so humbling and awe-inspiring to me to think that, you know, God may have brought them to our door for a reason. We never know. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I tend to think not. But so when I look back and think over the last 6 years or so, the things I've saw, I guess the thing that's changed the most is me and my perspective, and just the realization that we're all just instruments, and we never know when we're going to be the one sitting on the other side of the desk, and when we're going to need the one, you know, the ministering to. And so,
well, there may be some folks that are watching who, you know, feel the Spirit moving a little bit to step forward to volunteer in one of the ways that you lifted up. How would people
I
come
would
forward for
contact
that?
Karen Burton, because she's the volunteer person that's in charge of volunteers.
At the Cooperative Ministry.
Karen's at PCM, and Karen Burton is one of the most amazing coworkers. I'm so blessed and so honored to work with her, and I think that she would love to hear from folks.
And for a while, PCM's telephone number wasn't in the phone book, so...
Okay, that's not my department.
No, but I'm just thinking, in case somebody has an old phone book, what's
It's
PCM's number?
442-6795.
And say that again?
442-6795. We're not sure what happened, but I think it's in the new phone books at least. So
Well, good.
we're going to hope that that's been taken care of, because Sheila was getting a lot of phone calls at the shelter, and she's like, we'll redirect that.
Yeah.
We are so glad for you, Nikki, and for your work and for all the things you've shared with us today. And we bless you on your good work and for all that you do for us in this community.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you guys, because you're instrumental in everything I do.
Yeah. And we want to thank you for joining us today here at Reflections, and invite you with Paducah Cooperative Ministry to do whatever you can, however you can, with these human hands that we've been given. Shalom.
Shalom.